for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Bluntly, I'll tell you this, guys and girls, about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, I said, if you like the craziness of college football, not the on-the-field stuff, not the Saturday stuff, the Sunday through Thursday gossip. We call it in Spanish chisme. It's the gossip, it's the rumor, it's the innuendo, it's the message boards. I said, about 2 weeks ago, I said mid-October to mid-December is when all the chaos happens. It's when fan bases, teams start losing, so fans are mad, coaches are mad, whatever. And we got a perfect example of exactly that on Monday night. Did you see what happened on Dabo Swinney's coach's show when he had a really intense back and forth with him and a fan named Tyler from Spartanburg, okay? So Tyler from Spartanburg calls in. Give you a little backstory here, but it's one of these coaches shows. We talk about them all the time. That was where Mark Stoops made his NIL comments a few weeks ago. But it's a coaches show. Fans call in. Clearly, Clemson is reeling. They're 4-4, 3 losses already in the ACC, just not living up to the standard that they've set. And so I bring it up because Tyler from Spartanburg calls in and basically just rips Dabo to shreds. Well, the coordinator hires have not been good enough. The team isn't good enough. You're 4-4. And then he raps with a humdinger of all humdingers. He basically says, what are we paying you $11.5 million for to go 4-4? So he said that, and then Dabo responded. Dabo let him finish. I actually thought Dabo weirdly sort of handled himself okay while it was all going on. But then he responded. It was a lengthy, 5-minute response. So I'm not going to get into all of it. But here is some of what Dabo said. He said, I've listened to enough of you. You're part of the problem. That is part of the problem. It's people like you. The expectation is greater than the appreciation. The fun used to be in winning, but now even when you win, people like you complain and criticize all the coaches and question everything. People like you who love to destroy people with your comments. I'm sure you never made any bad decisions. I'm sure you've lived a perfect life. I'm sure you've led a bunch of people. He then continued. I started as the lowest paid coach in the freaking business, and I'm where I'm at because I worked my ass off every single day. Excuse my language. That was Dabo's words, not mine. And I'm not going to let some smart ass kid get on the phone and create this stuff. Woo! Dabo. You want to talk about fire? Dabo spitting fire. Tyler thought he was coming in hot. Dabo came in 10 times hotter. And it's crazy. It's crazy. That was the call. That was the back and forth. That was what happened. And I want to dive into it, but this is one, I'll be honest, right? Sometimes people call me hot take Torres. People, Torres comes in too hot. I actually see both sides to this one. I see Tyler's side. I see Dabo's side. The one thing I will say, it is indisputable at this point just how toxic that situation has gotten down there in Clemson and the fact that Dabo does have some tough things to answer for. Now, I will say, I think the news cycle kind of played out as it always does. You see a little quote on Twitter, everybody's crushing Dabo. But I do think when everybody kind of heard the whole context of everything, I actually think a lot of people came to Dabo's defense. And what I will say is, I think Dabo should be defended in some ways, right? But first of all, and I know this has been discussed a million times, the fact that we're still doing these coaches call-in shows, I understand they're contractually obligated. Just a crazy thing that we're still doing in 2023, especially in this angry, hostile world that we live in, where everybody likes to hide behind a computer screen or a phone or whatever. So one, it's crazy that we're doing it. But two, I saw a lot of people defend Dabo, and I'm going to defend him a little bit too. Thought for the most part, he actually handled himself reasonably well. Don't necessarily think that what he said was wrong. And I also think context matters here. He is literally the greatest coach in the history of that school. And I think we could probably live another 100 years and he will probably be the greatest coach that they've ever had. 2 national championships, a decade plus of complete dominance of the ACC, the best program in college football for a time, multiple college football playoff berths in this era of the college football playoff. And so I do think there's a lot of people that are you could criticize him for being 4-4, but you're never going to find it. If Dabo decided to leave for the NFL or retire tomorrow, you're never going to find anybody. You're very almost certainly not going to find anybody better than him. So I understand that argument. I understand the Dabo defenders. Let me also do this, though. Tyler from Spartanburg, if you're listening, I actually don't think what Tyler from Spartanburg said was that far off. And the baseline question that he asked is, what are we paying you $11.5 million for to go 4-4? And so look, I get that it's a down year. I get that we are on the tail end of a decade of dominance that featured 2 national championships, probably about, well over a half a dozen ACC titles, multiple college football playoff appearances. But you are paid a lot of money right now to win games. And I say this all the time when an athlete complains, especially a professional athlete, when you're paid a lot of money, right? It's like they say, to whom much is given, much is expected. You could talk about, appreciating wins and appreciating this and appreciating that. You're paid $11 million to win football games, lots of them, and you're not doing it right now. Beyond that with Dabo, and I think this is an important part. I think it'd be one thing if you lose because maybe the landscape changed, right? Like when Alabama was struggling, I don't think there was like a Nick Saban's, vitriol in the air. It was like the landscape's changing. Texas is better. We might not be the best team in the SEC this year, whatever. Now, Alabama has straightened things out going into LSU this weekend. But at the same time, why I bring it up is because with Clemson, it's different. With Clemson, you're not only losing in a manner in which you've never lost in the last decade, but more importantly, some of it is self-sabotage. Some of it is self-sabotage from the perspective that Dabo, who is paid $11 million a year to do whatever it takes within the rules of the NCAA rulebook, if that thing even still exists, within the rules, he is paid $11 million a year to do whatever it takes to win at Clemson, and he's not doing whatever it takes, even within the rules. And we all know why. We all know what I'm talking about. I've talked about it a million times. It's the transfer portal. And listen, I've talked about this so much, I am not going to go through the whole thing again. But we know that Dabo is very anti-transfer portal and that essentially he hasn't used it. Now, he said they recruited a couple guys last year. It didn't work out. They committed elsewhere. But the bottom line is, in an era where some schools, even if Colorado's the exception with 50, 60 new players, you have a lot of schools bringing in 8, 10, 12, even the good teams bring in 8, 10, 12 new guys through the portal every offseason. And so for Dabo to just decide, I'm not doing it because I don't like it, it is leading directly to losses, and it is leading directly to frustration from people like Tyler, who asks a basic question: why are we paying you $11 million? And I think the question is fair because he is paid $11 million to do whatever it takes to win games. He is not doing it. He is being stubborn, and he is sabotaging the program from within. And so I look at this, and I've said this a million times, right? We can agree, like you can agree or disagree with rules and laws and changes and this and that. But at some point, what's the old saying? You either adapt or die, right? And I go back when I look at Dabo, just his refusal to really embrace the portal, to really embrace that this is where we are in college football. I go back to something that I've talked about before. But about 3, 4, 5 years ago, John Calipari was asked about the transfer portal. And he didn't like it because one of his buddies, Bruiser Flint, who's now on his staff, lost his job because right before the season, a couple of his best players decided to transfer. So he said, I hate the transfer portal. And then he tried to fight it for a year or two. And then about 3, 4 summers ago, he basically said, look, I still don't like the transfer portal, but my job isn't to make the rules. My job is to do what it takes to win games at Kentucky. I might not like it, but if it can help me win games, it's my responsibility to take advantage of that. And again, you could argue about John Calipari this, John Calipari that, as far as if he's actually producing at the level that he should be. But he had that stance. I don't like the portal, but I have to accept that this is where college sports is going. By the way, Nick Saban said the same thing when the portal came in. Tom Izzo has had very similar comments. Tom Izzo doesn't like the portal. Well, guess what? His best player this year, Tyson Walker, is a transfer. So I bring it up because this is where Clemson fans' frustrations are justified. It's not just that you're losing because the sports changed or there's a lot of injuries or something weird happened. This is all self-sabotage from within. This is all stubbornness from Dabo that could be changed and should be changed. And so I get it. And all I'll say is it is clear that that situation is toxic. Now, the best thing to fix a situation like that is to win some games. And I will say you got a great chance at home against Notre Dame. Want to prove the doubters wrong? This is a great week to do it when you play Notre Dame. We'll see if that happens, but there's no doubt that there's starting to become more and more friction between the fans and Dabo. between Dabo's way of doing things before, how he's doing it now, and how maybe he should be doing it. And it is not very good. Now, the one thing I will say, if you think Dabo's going anywhere, think again. He even said it. He had a Tuesday press conference after the Monday radio hit, and he basically said, I ain't going nowhere. I'll read you the quote. He said on Monday, let me find the quote here so I don't misquote Dabo here, our old buddy Dabo Swinney. This is what he said on Monday. He said, I've got a long way to go in this profession. If they want me back here, I'm going to fight like crap to get this back to the standard. But I'm not going to let you steal my joy of what I do. So I bring it up because it is very clear to me that Dabo has dug his heels in. He ain't going nowhere. You like him, Tyler. You don't like him. I sort of understand where Tyler was coming from. But Dabo has no patience. And Dabo has no patience for your nonsense, Tyler. But Dabo ain't going anywhere. Quickly.